Acustats Video Productions presents from Bell Gardens, California, the first annual Bicycle Invitational. I'm Bill Incardona, along with Jay Helfert, the tournament director, and a very knowledgeable player. Jay, the two players that are playing the feature match have very similar styles, but they do have a difference in one area, in one specific area, and that is tournament experience. Kim Davenport, 1990 Player of the Year, 1989 runner-up to Player of the Year with Nick Varner. Well, he's shown us that he can play extremely well under tournament pressure. But his counterpart, Mark Tad, that is, Mark Tad has had very little tournament experience, and that tournament experience that he has had, he hasn't really played well.
Yeah, they are fast and loose style players. They disdain the safety. They go for the shot, and in that respect, they're similar. But I would agree with you 100%. Kim has proven himself as a tournament player. He's won major championships. Mark has not fared well in tournament play. He's more known for his challenge matches and private games and things like that. He's young. He's only 27 years old, so he's still on the way up. I talked to him the other day, Billy, and he said that he would like to be more successful in tournaments, and he knows that he hasn't done that yet, and it's kind of like one more mountain for him to climb. And he's got a mountain in front of him right now.
Oh, he certainly does. But, you know, Mark Tad fancies himself as a poker player, and I've talked to some of his peers in that area in the poker game, and they tell me that he's like a so-so player. But of course, when you count his winnings, you have to say that maybe that's contrary to what they believe. He seems to be a pretty big winner this year playing poker. So with that in mind, the winnings that he has amassed this year possibly could have loosened him up a little bit going into this tournament. Maybe he got the arm a little bit looser.
He seems to be well lubricated this week. His bankroll and his stroke.
Right.
Yeah.
So game number one, it goes to Mark Tad. He takes the early lead in the match, 1-0.
You know, there's stories that go around, Billy, and you never know how much of it's true, but I did see him playing in some private games over at the World Series of Poker last month at the Horseshoe, and in the biggest games. He was playing poker in absolutely the biggest games with the best players in the world, and they say he fared well. And what I do know is that he's ready to play this week, and he's ready to put his money where his mouth is.
And you alluded to the fact that he played in the high limit games. That tells me that if a player is willing to risk that much money playing in the highest limit games in Las Vegas and in casinos, that means that he has a lot of courage, you know, has a big heart. Because to risk literally hundreds of thousands of dollars, you have to say that he has a lot of courage.
Yeah, kind of like you, Billy. Kind of like
sure.
you. He's cut from the same mold. He's not afraid to put it up there. And in fact, if it's one thing that makes him a little bit objectionable to the other players sometimes, is he's a little bit overconfident to the point of being very cocky. I mean, the guy absolutely believes in himself. His first day here, he teed it up in a private match with Johnny Archer, #1 rated player in the world. So yeah, he's certainly not afraid to back it up with some money.
Well, actually, that was a no-lose situation for him. That was his bid for recognition, actually. If he lost to Johnny Archer, everyone would say, well, he figures to have lost to Johnny Archer, so therefore he hasn't lost anything but a few $1,000s, which we all know he can well afford at this time. But if he had won that match against Johnny Archer, he would have then succeeded in exactly what he started out to succeed, and that is to get that recognition that he really feels that he deserves. Yeah,
he would like to intimidate the other players if he could. Well, he's got a chance to get that recognition right now because he's playing one of the top 9-ball players in the world today, and a victory here would really push Mark into the forefront in this event. Personally, I've watched Mark play in several tournaments the last year because he's done quite a bit of playing in Southern California, and I have not seen him hold up well in tournament play, mainly because under pressure in a tournament, I've seen him quit in a match, and that's about the bluntest I can be. If he doesn't like the way the match is going, he'll just basically give up on the match and call it a lost cause and preoccupy his time with looking for a private game afterwards.
And that really is a bad sign. You know, he really doesn't have the killer instinct that say perhaps a Nick Varner on the adjacent table has, or even his opponent Kim Davenport, they certainly wouldn't quit in the middle of a match. They play it down to the very last game because they so often have won matches from large deficits, so they realize that it is a possibility to come from behind even by the score of 10-1 in a race to 11. But this race is to 13, so therefore, if you happen to fall behind early in a match, even by a significant score of possibly 6 or 7-0, you can still come back in the match. So I wouldn't expect to see Nick Varner or Kim Davenport quit. And
well, they wouldn't. They're seasoned pros. There's no question about it. Mark Tad is an extremely talented pool player. He's got the big game. I mean, he can break and run out with the best of them. He just needs to mature a little bit. And if he does mature, and time is only the thing that will tell if this happens, if he does mature, he could turn out to be a great player, a tournament player as well as a backroom player. But we'll see. He's certainly an unproven quality in tournament play.
He almost got a little careless there, setting cue ball in hand on the 1 ball for position for the 2. He kind of like fell short of his mark, and he had to use a little bit of inside English to recover with that particular shot, and recover he did very nicely.
You'll see that he's a real straight shooter, just like Kim. He hits the center of the pocket, which is really best suits this equipment, because this is really tight equipment here, and the guys that pocket balls well, there you go. He hit that ball about 3 times as hard as he had to.
Well, you got kind of fortunate in respect that he didn't leave Kim a shot. And Mark Tad's guilty of exactly what we saw just there, is that he shoots very quickly, and I feel that he shoots too hard. And if you shoot hard on this equipment, you're really going to take the worst of it, because, as you alluded to, the tightness of the pockets, the ball has to be hit with pretty good pocket speed in order to get the maximum out of the shot, the maximum benefit from the shot. And he hits balls rather hard.
And these pockets won't take him. If they're not hit absolutely perfect at that speed, the pockets just won't take him. He's got a tough shot here. Long straight off the end rail.
Notice how hard he hit that.
Yeah, he nailed it. He nailed it.
Such a gratifying sound, though, when you hit the center of the pocket, hitting it at that speed.
I wouldn't know about that sound.
I haven't heard that sound in a while myself. This is game number 2. It looks like Tad's on his way to capture game number 2.
Look out if he gets in the lead, I'll tell you. He can put games on the wire as fast as anybody. He kind of reminds me of Keith or Earl. He's just, he can string up those games like in moments.
Well, that's very true, Jay. And it was very important for Mark Tad to get the lead in this match. He plays much better from the front than he does from behind, but naturally anyone does. But particularly Mark Tad playing in a tournament. If he would have fallen behind early in this match, his recovery ability would not be nearly as good as his opponent's, Kim Davenport. Kim Davenport, you know, has had plenty of tournament experience, and he can come from behind. Mark Tad hasn't had very much success in that area.
We haven't seen him. I haven't seen him come from behind yet. In fact, the opposite's been true. Where when Mark's been down 4 or 5 games, I've actually seen him give up on a match where it looks like he didn't care. He began to concede balls. I mean, he was playing a match the other day where he was playing Tom Spencer, and Spencer would have the 6, 7, 8, and 9, and Mark would sweep the balls off the table and concede the last 4 balls. Now, that's unheard of in professional tournaments. You just don't do that. You don't concede any balls. But it was a reflection of what his attitude was at the time, and he was only down by about 3 or 4 games.
His tolerance level then is not very high. Okay, this is game number 3. Tad broke the balls in game number 3, pocketing a ball on the break, but he doesn't have a shot. Now what he'll need to do now is push to a
This is the other area of his game. This is the other area of game is a little bit questionable, is his safety play and his defensive play. We know he has the big offensive game. He's got all the offensive weapons. He can make any shot. But when it comes to strategy, there's some question there. We pushed out to where it looks like Kim can see the whole 1 ball. I don't know if he can see enough to make it in that upper right corner.
Yeah, he may go after the bank here, or Mark's kind of like challenging him. It's either you or me, he says. If you like the bank, go ahead and shoot it. I think I can make it. Oh, he left a little more than the bank, didn't he? As a matter of fact, he left the shot that he was able to pocket in the upper right-hand corner. Now, if you take a look at Mark Tad in his chair, he's kind of unhappy with the results there. He has given Kim Davenport an opportunity that he really shouldn't have given him.
It's a tight pocket. There's 2 getting past the 5. Good shot. Good shot.
There's Mark Tad sitting in the chair now.
He wants to shoot. He gets very restless.
Is restlessness a sign of nerves, or that you're nervous?
I think so. I think so. He's a little on edge. He's seems to go with the territory with Mark. He's kind of a hyperkinetic individual, you know, always in motion, always moving, always back and forth here and there. He doesn't sit still well.
No, he doesn't, does he?
Even when he's playing matches, you see him in a private match, he's all around the table, he's talking to people on the sidelines. It's hard for him, I think, just to sit there in a chair like that in a tournament and not have somebody to banter with. Because normally when he's playing a private game, he'll be talking to people in the audience or a friend or a colleague. And he can't do that here.
Well, definitely, that's a variable worthy of discussion, and I'm glad you brought that point up. For someone to tell him, like yourself, the tournament director, Mark, you're going to have to sit in that chair when your opponent's at the table. You can't move out of that chair, only to rack the balls. Well, that seems to take a little bit away from his style and his, you know.
He's like used to playing matches, Billy, which we're both aware of, where when the opponent's shooting, he'll be walking around the table. He'll be standing over at the other side of the table, or, you know, move back and forth, not getting in the way of the opponent, but yet being able to move around. So this is different for him to have to sit and be disciplined in a chair.
Exactly. And him moving around is just his way of relaxing himself.
Releasing that energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's game number 3. Kim Davenport finally gets on the board. Now he trails in the match at 1-2. Kim Davenport has a very good brick. He's regarded by his peers as one of the most explosive players on the tour today.
I like the way Kim shot the balls that rack, Billy. It looked like he's in good form, because that was not that easy. The first 2 or 3 shots the rack, he had to make some good shots there, and he handled them well.
That was a good assessment. Not only that, he trailed in the match at that time, 2-0, so therefore the...
it was like his first open opportunity, and he handled it real well.
The demand to respond was definitely there, and I was quite impressed that he was able to get through the rack as smoothly as he did, considering the score, and they was playing a very dangerous man in
Right, he didn't want to fall
Tad.
behind there 3-0.
Okay, now this shot here, the angle that he has on the 2-ball suggests to me that he has to go cross table, maybe even twice on the shot. But if you go cross table twice, you really increase the difficulty of the shot considerably. So he elected to
Missed it.
He elected to go 1 cushion across, hitting it with a softer speed, which would then decrease the accuracy of the shot somewhat. And that time, a little bit too much, so therefore he wasn't able to come up with the 2. Tad's back at the table. He doesn't really have an offensive shot unless he chooses to bank it cross-eyed or bank it cross-corner and go around the table with the cue ball, something that...
Yeah, see, he wants to shoot here. See, here's where good defensive play would go a long way to improving his game, and I don't think he's really got it. We'll see. I think he's going to try and come with a defensive shot here. He is.
Okay, that was dangerous to do this.
Yeah.
It was dangerous to do this in
Kim's looking at the 2-9 combination. I think it's pretty tough. I mean, that 2's right on top of the 9. But you know, the good thing about this shot, Billy, is I think he can shoot this combination and still play safe, because the 2's not going to go far.
Well, from the angle, the 2 will go at least a foot or a foot and a half. But he should position the cue ball 3 cushions behind the 4, leave distance on the 2.
Right. And there it goes.
And
nice shot.
That's why it was a dangerous shot for Mark Tad to try to play, because he didn't know exactly where that 1 was going to end up, and the 9-ball was near the bottom cushion. The 1 was going to go in that direction.
The 2-ball.
Or excuse me, the 2-ball was going to go in that direction, and it could have very easily landed dead on the 9, which it
this points out,
it did.
Yeah, this gives credence to the point I was making. His defensive game is really not up to the par of championship level players. As I was saying, Billy, I don't think Mark's defensive game is at this A level. Well, that didn't look like a typical Kim Davenport break.
Okay, Kim came out dry on the break, Jay, and it looks like Mark has some kind of a shot. He's elevating over the 4.
Yeah, he was able to cut that in, and he's got a decent shot at the 2 here. These balls are sitting real good.
Yeah, they certainly are. There's nothing tied up, and we can see the pattern quite clearly.
Okay.
Well, he's gotten on the wrong side of the 4. Actually, right. He wanted to get on the other side of the 4 using the side
cushion. Got to go around the 6. He did it. He just cleared the 6.
He's falling a little short, so he's going to have to use a good stroke drawing the cue ball to the side cushion, which he's done. Now he's back in line again, so I don't foresee any problems from this point on.
A little bit of a cut shot on the 9 ball here. No problem.
Okay, that's game number 5. It goes to Mark Ted. Once again, Mark takes a lead in the match now with the score being 3 games for Ted and 2 games for Davenport.
We've got their scorecard all the way up there at the light grid. And it looks like the old wires, the old beads we used to have in the billiard rooms with the score way overhead. We'll see if we can get Rick to show that after this game. Well, he made a good break. Mark does have a powerful break. The balls are spread out nicely.
Very nicely, I might add. The 2 and a 3 are together at the other end of the table. The 4 and the ball to the left of the 6 at the lower right-hand quadrant of the table. The 5 is located or positioned in the center of the table.
Watch how quickly he goes through the rack. It's
a little too quickly. It looks like he's hit the shot a little too hard.
He went too far. He went too far. Yeah, he can just make this ball go around the table. Uh-oh. The 4 just slipped in the pocket. It almost hung up. This is his typical playing speed, about like Earl. He doesn't waste any time at all. He's playing fairly well. I don't think he's completely loose yet. If he gets loose, we'll know it. He'll be swaggering around that table.
The game number 6 goes.
There's the bead. See, all the way up there by the light grid. Thanks, Rick, for showing us.
And as you can see, as well as everyone else that's watching, there are 6 beads that are in the center there. That indicates the score. The white ones are for Ted, and the orange ones are for Davenport. And we all can see that Ted has a 4-bead to 2 lead in the match.
And we're going to 13. Long match. Another good break, and
the 1 ball took its place. Normally the 1 ball goes up the other end of the table, but for Mark Ted, fortunately, it hit the point of the side pocket, thrusting it back down to this end of the table where the cue ball was positioned. Really a fortuitous roll there for Mark Ted.
Got over the top of the 6 here, made it a little bit tougher than he'd like it. Ooh, and he hung it up. Yeah.
He's a very, very fast-paced player at the table. He shoots really fast. And sometimes that comes back to burn him like it's done there. I call that a little careless, though. I feel that he should slow up his game. If he did that, I feel that he would have much more success.
I think Kim's going to shoot the 2-3 and then play that 4-9. I'm not certain if he's got a 4-9 combination. You notice what happened is Mark left immediately after he missed that ball. He walked way over to the sidelines. He's talking to a lady friend of his about 40 feet away from the table now. He really shouldn't be. He should be sitting in the chair. If I was out there on the floor, Billy, I'd bring him right back to where he's supposed to be. But this is typical Mark Tad. He doesn't want to be tied to that chair. He doesn't want to be confined to that area.
Exactly. Looks like Tim is opted to go for the run out, considering the position of the balls now.
Right.
If he's fallen short of the mark on the 6, he may have created a problem for himself, needing to go up table with the cue ball and back down for position on the 7.
Right.
He wants to get behind the 7 here. Now he needs to get behind the 7.
He doesn't want to hit it, that's for sure. I think he
looks like he's going to miss it and get past it.
Just made it. If he'd hit the 7 ball, it would have been disaster.
The 8 ball is located at the other end of the table. He has to hit this softly. And when he hits this softly, okay, he's playing it in the side. I like playing it in the side. Now, the reason I don't like playing it in the corner, you have to hit with a soft speed. Now, there's a likelihood, possibly, of the ball skidding on you.
This angle looks funny here, though. Oh, he had to risk slow roll it, baby it in there.
Yeah, now he has a decent shot on the 7, but his make percentage would go way up shooting it in the side opposed to the corner. So that's why he elected to go for the side. He wants to stay at the table. He does trail at this point by 2 games, and he doesn't want to fall any farther behind.
Well, this game was won because of Mark's error in missing that 2 ball. He actually didn't play bad shape off the 1. He just unfortunately got hooked over the top of the 6.
And if one would count the careless mistakes like the one Mark made, I'm sure that at the end of the match it would be very, very heavy in Mark's favor. It's not Mark's favor, Kim Davenport's favor.
His disfavor, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he's going to make a lot more of those unforced errors than his opponent, Kim Davenport. And when you add them up at the end of the match, I feel that's going to be his undoing if he goes on to lose this match.
You know, actually, his style of play reminds me of Keith McCready's because, you know, he's fast and loose and prone to make unforced errors from time to time, much like Keith does. Keith is liable to play brilliantly for 1 or 2 wrecks, and he's liable to make 3 or 4, you know, grievous errors in a row. And Keith is still a dangerous player.
Oh, absolutely, because if things start clicking for either Keith or Mark Tad, they're relatively impossible to beat for that match or for that time, because they just seem to eat off of that. Feed off of the
that adrenaline.
The moment,
the
adrenaline.
Right.
You know, if they come with a good shot, then another one, and they can shoot a little more quickly because they just seem to beam in rather more natural.
Yeah, they're both momentum players, and when they're rolling, they can put games on the wire real quick. I haven't seen Mark really in his gear yet, even though he's got a 4-3 lead in this match. My hunch is, and you didn't ask me, my hunch is Kim is going to find a way to win this match because I don't see Mark taking control, and Kim will.
Kim Davenport was slated as a 2-game favorite in the race of 13 prior to the match starting. He now trails by 1 game, but of course it's early in the match, and your prediction was that Kim will find a way to win.
See, this match is all important to Kim. This is his livelihood. Mark's thinking about the poker game or the pool game tonight and 100 other things, or his girlfriend sitting on the sidelines. And he'd like to win the match, but it's not life or death for him. That's for certain. Now, there's a factor here that we haven't discussed, Billy, and this may have a bearing on the match, although it doesn't appear to be the case right now. I don't see any evidence of it, as I wonder if these gentlemen may have made a wager on this match.
I don't think so.
I
think so.
I would suspect Mark would have offered that.
Well, if that's the case, if that's what you suspected, then they do have a wager.
Yeah.
Because Kim would have graciously accepted it.
Yeah.
But I don't think that they do.
It doesn't look like it. Doesn't seem there's not that intensity between the two players right now.
Okay, after game number 8, if we look up at the score, it's 4 beads apiece now.
Actually, there is a little wager in this match, you know, because the winner of this match is guaranteed $500. So there's $500 on the line right here, which is a little bit more than spare change.